Robert De Niro, Donald Trump, not exactly best of friends. It's the Vegas Take coming our way live on a Wednesday, 101.5 FM, 720 AM. You can also find us on our YouTube channel at the Vegas Take. And we're all over the social media, by the way, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at the Vegas Take Radio as well, too. So you can find us on our social media. And feel free to chime in whenever you like. I'm Chris Wynn in for Brian Shapiro. He's off today, but he'll be back on Monday. Some best of shows to round out the week, Thursday and Friday, as it's Thanksgiving. And JD, it's always sad when they go so young. And that's the case here as well, too, as Harry Morton has passed away. The family said that the restaurateur died after having a heart attack, though the Los Angeles County Coroner's Office still has yet to confirm his official cause of death. But there is the word is that he was suffering from coronary artery disease, which is a narrowing or blockage of coronary arteries in a mildly enlarged heart. His family spokesman said in a statement to multiple outlets. Like Harry Morton, it's relevant here in Las Vegas. He is the founder of Pink Taco, very popular restaurant down at the Hard Rock Hotel. And his family, of course, he comes from a very prominent family in the service industry as far as hotels and restaurants and nightclubs. Harry, in fact, himself, he was he owns a Mexican restaurant chain. He also formerly owned the Viper Room nightclub in West Hollywood, which Johnny Depp was once a co-owner of as well.
Which is where River Phoenix died.
Yes, of a drug overdose.
Of a heroin overdose.
Back in the early 90s.
22.
And he was an investor in the nightclub Beecher's Madhouse. Beecher's Madhouse, before, JD, you were here in Vegas, it was a very popular show over at the Hard Rock. A lot of comedians, a lot of kind of wild stuff that went down back in the mid-2000s, like 2004, 2005, and beyond. That was a very popular show. Harry Morton's a guy, look, he's been out and about. He's not afraid to socialize, not afraid to party up a little bit. I mean, this was a guy who was linked romantically to the likes of Demi Moore, Lindsay Lohan, Paris Hilton, Britney Spears, Jennifer Aniston. He was not afraid to partake in extracurricular activities, JD, I think is a fair way to put it. And so people obviously are going to think, when you're passing away at 38 years old, you're going to start making
especially when
you start connecting the dots, right?
Especially when you have coronary artery disease. And it's not something I'm assuming, and I don't know this for a fact, I'm assuming it's not something he was born with. I'm assuming it wasn't hereditary. I'm assuming that the chances are that, here's the deal, when you do cocaine, and you do it a lot over an extended period of time, your heart, you get arteriosclerosis, which is when your arteries harden. And when your arteries harden,
campaign. JD seems to be very expertish on the subject.
I've done some research on this. I've seen
regarding the snow.
Man, I've seen so many different people that have died from age 28 to 34 of sudden heart attacks.
Yeah.
And people think that you can just get coronary artery disease. And it makes someone who lives a pretty clean lifestyle think that, I could just die immediately. No, that's not the case. And I'm so tired of the media covering it up for these families when their kids and when their relatives are literally dying of drug overdoses and they're not, or of drug abuse, and they're not saying it openly. And in my opinion, I believe that Harry Morton died from doing too much cocaine over an extended period of time. And when you do too much cocaine over an extended period of time, you get coronary artery disease, and your heart gets enlarged because it has to, because it's not pumping enough blood, because your arteries are hardened. And I'm so tired of, because I have my wife had a heart issue, and it had nothing to do with drug use. It was totally, it was based on pregnancy and a combination of too much iron and just a whole bunch of things. But it wasn't. But the doctors, when they saw her at 30 years old, they thought that she had been abusing cocaine, and that's just not the case. But in this case, I do believe that Harry Morton abused cocaine for too long, and it caught up to him. And if you do abuse cocaine, it's going to catch up to you. Your arteries will harden, especially if you have a bad diet and you don't sleep very much and your immune system isn't down. And again, I'm just very, very tired of the media covering up for these families and not suggesting that, oh, by the way, this guy did blow for 20 years, which again, I think that's what happened here.
Authorities said that there was no evidence of foul play in Harry's death. This is a really sad part of it. Apparently, his younger brother, Matthew, was the one who found him unresponsive in his Beverly Hills home on Saturday. I mean, I myself, who has brothers and sisters, I just can't imagine that the type of effect that would have. I mean, that's just extremely sad. But no, you're 100% right. I mean, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to see somebody in their late 30s. That's not you're not passing away from natural causes. Okay, there's obviously you can make a connection that it could be some type of drug overdose,
and it strikes
or
fear,
something that has been transpired because you've partaken and you've done so much damage to your body that it's going to take an effect in your late 30s.
Especially if you drink, say you do cocaine and you drink Red Bull and you drink a lot of liquor and you do and you don't sleep very much. I mean that's all, and you eat poorly, you have a bad diet. That's all going to add up. There's a reason why most of these these hardcore rock and roll, they die in the 50s and 60s. They
even that.
I
mean, the magic number was what, 26, where Jimi Hendrix died.
You're talking
Jim Morton. All these guys died in their 20s.
But that's like heroin. That's like heroin. I don't think that Morton was involved in heroin, but I believe that he partied with cocaine and he drank a lot of liquor on a consistent basis. And then again, the problem is that if you're 32 years old and one of your friends dies, you think that maybe I could die too, just for no apparent reason, just from a sudden heart attack, and it strikes fear into you. And the fact of the matter is, if you don't have, and again, I'm not a doctor, but if you don't have a hereditary issue with your heart, the chances of you just dying randomly from something like this are very, very small. And that's why I don't understand why the media likes to cover it up for these families and not say, hey, by the way, this person abused cocaine for 20 years, because it would make people feel a lot better who don't abuse cocaine, who see things like this and they think, oh, well, I could just die too. That is not the case. And I believe that it creates a misconception.
Well, you hate to see it, and you would hope that this could be a lesson, right? That you would see this happening, and what's the definition of insanity? Is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result. And it just seems like it's just far too many instances where people are gone far before their time, and it's for ridiculous reasons. It's for drug abuse or a drug overdose, or not getting the proper care that you need, not handling your business. And this appears like it could be one of those cases now. There's no doubt that it's not something that's going to go away, and we're gonna end up seeing it. Unfortunately, I don't mean to be the bearer of bad news, but we're probably going to see this again. But it is, and by the way, you bring up cocaine. It's not necessarily just cocaine and heroin. Obviously, we have an issue here in this country with respect to prescription drugs, right? And
absolutely,
whether it's fentanyl and other things that are taking people's lives very young as well, too. So it's a problem that I think we need to address, and it needs to be pointed out. And yes, and to your point, as far as the media, there shouldn't be any type of covering up like this. They need to be. There should be more of a focus on it, in my opinion, because that way we can actually address the situation.
They need to be open about it and say, this guy died of a heart attack at 38, which is extremely odd. By the way, these are certain things that he did. He owned a nightclub that celebrities went to. He owned a nightclub that River Phoenix died at.
Yes,
I mean, come on. The guy, he lived in Las Vegas for an extended period of time. He was linked to Lindsay Lohan. Lindsay Lohan does what?
Lindsay Lohan is a socialite that just tears it up left and right.
She is a socialite who has been caught with cocaine on multiple occasions.
100%.
So
yes.
you have to mention these things and say, hey, by the way, this guy did all these different things, and there's I just don't. It really, really bothers me, because again, a young, healthy person who knows people who have died like this, they're now going to think that, oh wow, I could just die too, and to me that's just that's really bad business, and I don't like how the media continually does that. And I realize they're trying to protect the families, like the prominent Morton family, but bottom line, this guy most likely did cocaine for an extended period of time, and by doing that and living the lifestyle that he did, his arteries hardened faster than they should. And he didn't realize it, and he passed away.
We can't be naive, though, about the lifestyle in Southern California, particularly Los Angeles. Look, here's the deal. People that hang around with celebrities and that are in Hollywood, it can be a fast life, right, JD? I mean, I'm sure you guys can talk to Mr. X about this next time you have him on, as far as, people, you're in the public eye. You are going 100 miles an hour. People are, actors, actresses, musicians. It is the center of the entertainment industry, and we understand what goes on in that. And we've seen from John Belushi to Corey Haim to, that scene back in the 80s I'm sure it was just out of control.
Chris Farley,
like Chris Farley. I mean,
in the early 90s,
people were going, off the rails with their lives when it came to with respect to drugs and booze and all that kind of stuff. A lot of these guys, like Chris Farley, for example, he believed that he needed to be high in order to be funny. Right.
And that wasn't the case, but he thought that was the case. That like all those crazy bits that he did, where down by the river, like he was completely high out of his mind during all of those SNL skits, and it was just part of the lifestyle back then. All those comedians, they just got extremely, they abused cocaine, and then they got fired up, and then they thought that it made them more funny. But it's definitely part of the Hollywood lifestyle, and it has been for a long time. And you're right, it's probably not going to stop anytime soon.
Well, it's that combination, right? It's a celebrity life where you feel you have that you're young, and so you have that feeling of invincibility, but you also are a celebrity. I mean, you're big time, and you're surrounded by whatever you want. You have access to whatever you want. So it's not the type of life, for example, if you live in, I don't know, say a city like Tampa, Florida, or say a city, like Charleston, South Carolina. It's not the same type of deal. I mean, we're talking about L.A., and, I brought up the 80s, but you can basically implement any time period up until now, up until 2019. Any time that you move to California and you end up making it big in the entertainment industry, there's going to be a focus on you, and you're going to have access to all kinds of excess, and certain personalities can't necessarily handle it.
And you're going to have the money.
Exactly.
To pay for it all.
Yeah, and you can get whatever you want, whenever you want. I mean, that's a big draw here in Vegas, right? Is that you can have access. I can go out 3 o'clock in the morning and fire back a nice 14-ounce ribeye, and maybe get my steak and eggs on, or I can power back some chicken wings at 5 a.m. at my favorite chicken joint. The point being is that, yes, access to whatever you want, whenever you want. And that's the case with Harry Morton and the circles that he ran in L.A. And so that can exacerbate any type of vices that you have.
And it's just
and
time.
If you partake, it could end up being deadly in the case of Harry Morton and a lot of other people. That's been the case.
And it's just time that when situations like this arise, it's time to be honest about what most likely caused this death. Did he have a heart attack? Yes. Did he have coronary artery disease? Yes. How did he get it so early? He did these things in his life to get this disease so early. And if you do them too, there is a chance that you will get coronary artery disease early. But the media has to stop trying to protect these families, these prominent families and these prominent celebrities, by saying that no, he just randomly had a heart attack at 38. Somehow he had coronary artery disease. No, in this case, and again, I don't know for a fact, but I'm pretty certain that he abused cocaine for an extended period of time, and by doing that, he gave himself early onset atherosclerosis, which created coronary artery disease, and that's how he had the heart attack.
Speaking, JD, of being able to do whatever you want in the entertainment industry, Lori Loughlin, I got to hit you with this. Lori Loughlin and her husband, fashion designer Massimo Giannulli, I think I'm saying that right.
Massimo.
Celebrating 22 years of marriage today, my friend. But a source is telling People magazine that they are a little bit more focused on avoiding jail time for their alleged roles in the college admissions scandal that they were involved in. Lori Loughlin faces some jail time on that, even though a couple of the other prominent actresses and just prominent people ended up just getting community service and getting huge fines. Lori Loughlin is under the thumb in that situation. But kind of want to get your take on that. Because look, you would think as a parent you want the best for your kids. You want to take care of your kids. But this whole scenario just kind of went off the rails. I mean, you got kids like. You got parents trying to portray their kids as college athletes to get them into college and to get them into prominent schools or schools that they had no business getting into because they didn't have the grades or they just, were just not academically able to get into those schools. I mean, this whole story, obviously, it intersects with NCAA rules and, with celebrities and what celebrities are able to get away with. But Lori Loughlin not getting away with it, JD, is she's facing some real jail time here.
Well, you can't pay $500,000 to get yourself to get your child into a school, and you can't. And the fashion that she did it was just ridiculous. But she deserves everything that's coming to her for it. I think that the punishment. Now, I would never do what she did. I would never pay $500,000 to put my kid in any school. And her daughter, all she cared about was Instagram. She wanted to be an Instagram model anyways, and she's a beautiful young lady. But I think you have to set some type of precedent, and you have to have some type of punishment to to Lori Loughlin and to her husband for doing this, because you don't want it to happen again. It's just it was ridiculous. I didn't love it as a news story because I'm not sure that it was super relevant, but if you're willing to pay $500,000 to get your kid into USC, I mean, it was a terrible investment. I don't understand why she did what she did.
And it's USC, and look, hey, I'm not trying to hammer you Trojans out there or anything, but this wasn't Harvard, right? This wasn't Dartmouth.
Right.
This wasn't MIT.
It wasn't Oxford.
This is USC.
No.
And you're taking all these chances, and now you're getting busted for this. And for what? For a Pac-12 school that really good school.
Well, but I mean, you're manipulating test scores. You're pretending like you're more intelligent than you are. You might be getting a spot that somebody else from a lesser income family isn't getting. It's just not good for college in general. And for the American dream, go to college, get a job, get a family, do this, do that. I mean, it kind of puts a cog in that, and it makes the education system look very, very flawed. And hopefully this doesn't happen more often.
Prior to these new charges, by the way, that they face, it's Lori Loughlin, by the way, and her husband. There's 9 other defendants who, quote unquote, conspired to commit federal program bribery by bribing employees at the University of Southern California to facilitate their children's admission. They've been charged with 1 count each of a conspiracy to commit federal programs bribery. Prior to those charges, though, they had already been facing money laundering conspiracy and conspiracy to commit mail and wire fraud and honest services mail and wire fraud. A lot of legal jargon there, but the bottom line is this: they previously faced up to 40 years in prison and have completed not guilty to the original charges. So. Not a great situation for the former Full House star. I was a big Aunt Becky fan, JD. I don't know about you. You're a little bit younger than me. This is probably
I watched Full House.
Full House is probably in your wheelhouse. You were a kid back then.
I think I was a 4th grader.
Yeah,
like a second.
You're a youngster.
A second to a 4th grader. I slipped through one Saturday morning. So you had recess, you had Power Rangers, Full House, Family Matters. I watched all that stuff when I was a young buck. Back when I was 26, 27 years ago. I'm 34 now.
I'm a big fan of the older sister, the one that's married to Valerie Bure, the hockey player.
You like Candace Cameron?
She's awesome.
Yeah.
And so I started watching Fuller House.
Did you like Jodie Sweetin too?
Jodie
Sweetin wasn't a bad looking girl.
I like her now more than I liked her back then. She was a little too young. See, the thing is, Candace Cameron Bure is in my age range,
right?
So I'm more down with her. But Jodie Sweetin now, yes, Jodie Sweetin is one good looking woman now. So yes, but back then not necessarily. She was younger, way younger. So, but and to be quite honest with you, I was in college at the time, so I wasn't really a huge Full House guy. I wasn't tuned into ABC Fridays to catch every episode of Full House back then. But Fuller House now on Netflix, I do check out a lot.
You watch Fuller House?
I watch Fuller House. I watch Atypical. Right? There's a show on Netflix now called Atypical. It's about an autistic kid who lives with, and by the way, who's the father in the show is Michael Rappaport, who is the sideline reporter for Ice Cube's 3-on-3 basketball league.
You mean Dickie McWilliams from True Romance?
From True Romance, Dickie. Where did you get all this coke, Clarence? Where'd you get it? He's got it, but the guy had what was the movie? It was like that movie, by the way, had a ton of great acting talent. And
Gandolfini.
And speaking of which,
Patricia Arquette.
We were just talking about the drug issues in California and in the acting community.
Right.
What's the actor's name? Why am I drawing a blank on the actor's name? He's been in a ton of stuff. He was in Point Break. He was in that movie, True Romance. Why am I drawing a blank on his name? He's from Michigan, by the way, too. He's a Detroit guy. And a tremendous actor. He was in Saving Private Ryan. And his name is escaping me right now. You know who I'm talking about.
Wait, what was his?
He's a big time actor back in the 90s and early 2000s.
What was his role in True Romance?
He was the cop. He was the guy that busted him. It was him and Sean and Chris Penn. Chris Penn, who by the way also died of a drug overdose.
His name is Tom.
Tom Sizemore. Tom Sizemore. Great actor, by the way. Great actor.
He's a very good actor.
But he's hilarious in that movie.
Hey, so do you think that Lori Loughlin and her husband were actually trying to launder money by paying the $500,000? That they were trying to hide it? And do you think they listed it as a tax write-off at any point?
What's that again? Excuse me, I was listening to Johnny.
Do you think that Lori Loughlin and her husband listed that $500,000 payment to bribe school officials as a tax write-off at any point?
I don't know the details as far as what they're facing, as far as like the actual monetary charges that they've, like the reason behind the charges, but I wouldn't be surprised one iota if that was the case, JD. 702-257-5396 is the phone number. Chuck wants to weigh in on celebrities and or politicians and their kids and maybe possible benefits they get. Chuck, what's going on?
Hey, how you guys doing?
Doing good.
Hey, what's up, Chuck?
Hey, this is just another reason that Joe Biden should be in jail as well, because if you think Hunter Biden could get into Georgetown and Yale on his own, you're nuts.
Well, I mean, look, come on, Chuck. How many prominent Americans, doesn't matter what your ideology is or political side, how many prominent people get into colleges all the time that have no business being there? And by the way, one of those happens to be in the White House right now. You're telling me Donald Trump is so prominent as a high school student at his private school that he absolutely should have been.
You're a damn fool for saying that.
I'm a damn fool. He got it. Oh, so he absolutely
school, San Diego State.
Well, you start hammering my educational background. I'm not. We're not judging my. Hey, I went to college. But we're not judging my educational background here.
Framingham University, right?
I'm simply making a point.
Right. That's a bad example, bro.
No, Chuck, you're bringing up You're bringing up Hunter Biden is a terrible example because there are a lot of people, both Democrat, Republican, Independents, whose kids get into school all the time that have no business getting in those schools. You're just a Trump guy who doesn't like Joe Biden, so you want to bring up his kid and getting into Georgetown as being something that he should be thrown. By the way, you said thrown in jail.
Nobody likes Joe Biden. Nobody likes Joe Biden.
You definitely don't like Joe Biden, but you definitely don't like him.
He's never going to be the president, and his son should be in jail, the bum.
That makes sense, Chuck. Good. Thanks for the call. We appreciate it. Have a happy Thanksgiving. But
good call,
there's
Chuck.
a lot of people. Look, there's a lot of people whose kids get into schools they have no business getting into.
Right, but that's totally different than
he puts a focus on Hunter Biden.
For example, Kushner's dad, donating money to the university is totally different than bribing a school official.
Right.
Okay, there's a whole different, or Trump's kids. If Trump decided to donate money to a school, or if Trump had a personal friend who happened to be in an administration that he went to school with, that's totally different than literally bribing an official to manipulate the scores. So Chuck, I understand where you're getting at with nepotism, but there's nepotism and there's a committing a crime, and I think that they committed a crime to avoid paying taxes, or they committed a crime to launder money that they shouldn't have, and I think that's why this is such a big deal.
It's the Vegas Take coming your way here. 2 hours down, 1 to go. Chris Wynn in for Brian Shapiro along with J.D. Sharp. On the other side, we're going to hit some sports action, baby. Local action, of course. UNLV gets the win over Jackson State last night. Of course, we had an upset in college basketball. We're efforting News 3's Brian Salmon to join us to talk about all things UNLV as well as Vegas as we continue on the Vegas Take on your Wednesday.